This is an add-on that a lot of people do, the red start-stop button and the red M button on the E90 M3. We also picked up some sandpaper, very fine grit. I have a 400 here. I also have some other grits on the side as well as some satin black spray paint. So the reason that I have the sandpaper and the satin black spray paint is because my steering wheel, this is a super common problem on these E90s. The inner piece on the steering wheel actually goes bad and it starts to like bubble over time. Whatever BMW used for that just fails. So I've heard that some people just sand it down, spray paint it, and it lasts longer than the actual OEM one. As well as the ring around the start-stop button is black. It has like a bunch of chipping in it, so we're gonna go ahead and sand that down, spray paint it black as well. There's a silver ring in there too that I think will just look better in black. So I'm gonna try and run through this whole process with you guys, show you as much as I can and kind of explain to you how I'm gonna do it. Everyone does it a different way. There are a few videos of people who actually take off the full steering wheel and who take out the full trim. We're gonna do this a little bit differently, but I'll try to make it as simple as possible and clear as possible for you guys if you're wondering how to do this process. So if we jump inside of the car, you can see it immediately around here. It's just like bubbling and coming up on the plastic. So we're gonna go ahead and take this whole piece off. I figured while I have the M button getting replaced, you might as well just repaint this rather than buying a new one. I don't really want to do the carbon fiber as of now. Maybe I will down the line, but I think a satin black will look good with this. It'll match OEM as close as possible. And then if you guys look on the start-stop button, all that surrounding paint is chipping, so we're gonna repaint that as well as that silver ring. So in order to do this process, we do have to take out the airbag. So you want to disconnect the battery. Now you don't have to disconnect all of it, but we're gonna go ahead and disconnect the negative. So in order to disconnect the negative terminal from the battery, you're gonna see a 10mm right there. Spin that guy around, pull it off, and then we'll be officially disconnected. So I usually put a rag underneath it just so the negative doesn't hit anything metal and spark. All right guys, so the first order of business, we're gonna go ahead and take off this panel right here that has our start-stop button. There's a clip right here, I believe a clip somewhere around here, and then another one on that side. You have to be careful because this one is prone to cracking. So when you're taking it off, take it off from this side and be very gentle with that side. I have seen that some people have done this without taking the entire panel out. However, the two clips that are behind this start-stop button are very hard to get at. And if you don't take the entire thing off, it's hard to see both of those clips and actually unclip them, and I don't want to risk breaking anything. So we're just going to do it the right way and take off the entire thing. So starting on this side, that comes off just like that. Should be one more clip, that, and then on this side is where you want to be very careful. There you go. So that's the way to do it. Rock it back and forth. On the inside of the start-stop button, there is a connection as well as a connection behind. And so what you want to do is look back there. It's got two clips on each side. Unclip that one. So take off this whole piece just like this. It's the same method in the F30 actually. This whole thing comes out. Two clips in the back of this. Like that. So if you look in the back of this assembly, here is our start-stop button. There's one clip right there, one clip down here. Now, like I said, you guys might be able to do it without taking off the whole thing, but these break pretty easily, so I didn't want to risk it. There we go. All right, so we get the clips out, and then this whole assembly comes out. So for this next part, we're gonna use a little pick tool. You can see these little notches, these little silver notches right here. Behind those are little pins. So what you're gonna wanna do is get in. It's gonna be really hard to show you guys this, but I'll show you once it's out. I got one. You can see that little silver in there. That's the pin. So you're just digging in and unclipping it. And you just go around the entire piece and do that until you have all of them unclipped. And then that ring and the inner ring come out in one piece. Then you have your start-stop button. So for the ring and the inner piece that we just pulled out, we're gonna be repainting all this. So I'm gonna sand all this down and then repaint it black. For the start-stop button, in order to get this out, I'm gonna show you on the new one that I have. There's 4 tiny little clips. So you're just gonna get in here with the same pick tool and start pulling those clips out. All right, so there we go. Old one, new one. Obviously the red looks way doper. So when you're ready to put in your new one, do you see this little mouthpiece? Looks like a smiley face with a mouth. Well, the engine part is going to follow that. So there's also a little slot up top that kind of tells you how to get it in. Throw it in there. Bam. So now let's work on the fun part. We gotta take off part of that steering wheel in order to get the M button on. Part of that means I gotta pull out the airbag, which is kind of a pain in the butt, but it'll be worth it. All right, so in order to get the airbag out, we're gonna use this flathead. There's basically a little spring in here. This is spring loaded, similar to how the F30 airbag is set up. So there's there's a slit on this side and a slit on the other side. This is gonna go in, and we're gonna try and hit that spring, pull out each side. Bam, got it. Got that side. Bam, finally, woo. Got it. You just wanna be careful when you're stabbing that you're not like going too far in. I'm gonna show you guys inside of here and kind of explain to you how I went about doing that. Either way, it's going to take you a little bit of time. So on the back of the airbag, you're gonna see two little clips. Pop those up like that. And up like that. And these should just come right out. And you're not going to confuse which one is which because they are color-coded green and black. So to kind of explain to you guys what's going on is taking the screwdriver, going in that little slit. You can see it going in there. And you want to turn it like that so you hit the spring. And what's happening is it's releasing that spring right there. You obviously have one on each side. So your goal is to release it as much as you can so those clips come out. And then you're able to remove the airbag. So the next part for us is going to be removing this piece around here. So in order to actually remove this surrounding piece, there's 3 bolts, one back here, one back here, and one back here, and they're T20s. Now for time's sake, I'm just doing it with the steering wheel on the car. You could go ahead and actually remove the wheel if you wanted to. There's a 16 mil in the middle, but we don't have to do that. I'm just gonna crawl back here, get those 3 bolts, pull this whole part out, and then we're gonna go into disassembling all of this internal stuff and then painting. So you had these 2 little clips right there, and then this that was actually plugged into the steering wheel, and then these were the 3 T20s, and now we just have to take apart these little assemblies. So now that it's out, you can really see how chewed up this steering wheel is. Bottom isn't bad, but on those edges it's real torn up, so that's why we're going to be repainting it. All right, so first step to getting these buttons out. They already move. You just have these 2 T20s on each side. Now this part, I'm gonna handle in a second here and start painting it so that can dry while we're working on everything else. So the M button is only on this side, obviously. And in order to open this up, there are clips along the side. So we're just gonna be taking a little pick tool and releasing, I believe there's 1, 2, 3, looks like 3 clips. And just releasing those 3 clips. So then once we get the clips out, go ahead and release this little circuit board part. I'm gonna kind of set this up just like that so nothing falls out. And then inside of this little assembly, obviously our button's right here. Just find that button, take off this little rubber piece on top. And there is the actual button right there. Without really removing anything, because I don't want to mess around with it. Hold M button, and just take that new one. Go ahead and pop it in there. Lay back down that rubber, make sure it's nice and flat. I'm just gonna go ahead and reassemble it. I don't want to lose things, that's why I do it like this, and I just do it real quick. These 2 modifications alone are at least 50 horsepower to the wheels. So if you're just looking for a cheap way to get a super fast car, you just upgrade these to red and your car is going to be crazy fast. You pretty much gap anyone at that point. So we stole the F30 garage for this part. Got our part that we're gonna sand down. Sandpaper, paint I'm using, high performance enamel, and then some isopropyl and a rag. So that should pretty much be everything we need. I'm gonna grab the little ring piece too, and then we're gonna sand this down and probably do 2 or 3 coats, very light coats. So you will want to use like whether it's a knife or a sharper tool to get this top level of paint off. You don't want this top level of paint on there, or else it's going to create inconsistencies in your spray job. So just remove that top level of paint however you want to do it. It's a little tough with the sandpaper. Probably could have gone a little bit lower of a grit, but this will be good to get it nice and fine. But we definitely want to make sure that none of the old paint is on there, or else the new paint will just do the same thing that the old paint did. So, gonna take some time, work your way all around. All right, so we have it sanded down. Take your time with this. It took me about an hour of sanding. I think a 400 grit is maybe a little too light. Go to something like a 3 and a 200 and then finish off with a higher grit like 400. You can see there's still a little bit of old paint under here, but it's really, really on there, so I don't think it's gonna peel up at all. Now, all of the other paint is gone. Before you get to actually repainting, you're gonna wanna go ahead and clean everything, and then we're gonna go ahead and re-tape off the M. I had my thumb over the M while I was sanding, just because I kind of wanted to get in those crevices too. So we're gonna go ahead and clean it. Perfectly covered up. Did that with the knife, razor blade, a little bit of tape. So we are good for painting. Lay that out. Got the silver ring, the black one. Took all of the black off of the top of it. Get this a little clean. Coat 1, gonna let that dry for about 15-20 minutes. Come back and check on it. Second coat, first looks pretty good. A little light on some of it, a little heavy on others, but we should be all right. Third coat, last and final coat. Took about 45 minutes, went and got some poke, came back to this beautiful masterpiece. So you can tell that this is a little bit darker, and that's because this was like a chrome finish underneath. So it actually looks pretty cool. I think it's gonna look really good against this like matte black with a little bit of like almost a matte gloss. Should be pretty sick. But this turned out really good. Turned out really good. Look at how clean that looks. So what I would have done differently had I done this another time was I probably would have started with a harder grit, like a lower grit on this, and then finished off with a finer grit. It worked out, but it took a lot longer. So if you want to do it right, maybe start out with like a 200 and then go up to a 400. But yeah, it looks real clean, super smooth, no like blemishing. I think we did a good job. So now it's just a matter of putting everything back together, throwing it in the car. Here's a look at it, finished product. I mean, looks pretty good if you ask me. It's like as good as factory. I'm gonna work on the steering wheel and put that back in the car, and then we'll come back to this part. What? I mean, look at it. It's like flawless. It looks OEM. It looks so good. I gotta clean the wheel a little bit, but dang. All right, so let's put in the rest of this stuff. And we'll get that double image of the red start stop with that red M button. But I think this turned out really good. I'm proud of that. Bam. What do you think? It's like matte finish on the inside, glossish on the outside. Let's put it in the car. That looks sick. That looks freaking spectacular. These cables right here, you're gonna wanna keep those out. Don't put this in yet, because you're gonna wanna snake them through here and then plug it in. It's just the easiest way to do it. Yo. Tell me that doesn't look factory. That looks so good. So I would give the steering wheel painting job like a 9.5 out of 10. Like I killed that. Looks really, really clean. All around the M logo, like everything untouched. Really good lay of paint. Then we have this bad girl. I would give the painting on that like a 7 or an 8. It looks good, but I should have let it dry a little bit longer. I was getting a little bit of fingerprint on it, but I was able to fix the majority of it. So that's kind of the setup. I think it looks real clean. I think it looks really, really clean. Like with both of these. I dig it. I really do dig it. Steering wheel looks a lot newer now. So I have the same deal going on over here. Got this bubbling. It's the same kind of issue. At some point I think I'm gonna do the same thing with this. Try and refurb that, because I looked at buying a new one and it was just more expensive than really. I think this is all like one piece. So we'll do that at some point. So yeah, this looks really good, guys. That lights up. Just so you guys can see it, just like the stock one. And yeah, man, I'm real happy with it. So I would say the whole job is probably about like a 2-hour job, just because you have to let the paint dry. Paint dry takes a while. Would have been faster if I had a better sanding setup, a lower grit for starting and then everything after. But you guys tell me what you think. Comment down below.